What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. We are flying solo this morning as Tim is on assignment out there trying to bag a deer this weekend. So that's where he's at. Emilio's obviously out there on the ground. He'll be joining us later this afternoon or early this evening, probably this evening normal time. Will be when we go live for PTA Live, 7 p.m. Central. So he'll be back with us tonight. Hope everybody is having an awesome day as we are getting ready for the weekend here on this glorious Friday, November the 22nd. Let's go to the chat. It's already lit up. As a matter of fact, let's do this. Let's go ahead and give a quick shout out. Said the chat is absolutely lit up this morning. I know Nick McSwain in the house. Good morning, PTA. Did y'all hear the Bears' new stadium is going to be a dome? Going to be the only team left in the NFC North without one. Sad emoji. Yeah, listen, man, drives me crazy. I was watching that game last night, and if you guys didn't see it, we've actually got a clip here, and it's just a short clip of Jameis Winston with a diving touchdown. I'm going to just let it kind of play on loop while we're talking here. This is the stuff that you're missing every time you watch a game in a dome. There may be rain involved. There may be snow. You know, the beautiful thing about football is the elements, in my opinion. You know, it's like baseball. You go to a baseball game, and you're going there to kind of take in the whole environment, right? You're going into, it's the smell of the hot dogs in the air. It's the freshly brewed beer, right, or the fresh tap beer. That smell in the air. It's the fresh cut grass. It's sometimes the birds chirp. It's just everything. It's a reason to get outside, right? And you get anywhere from 20,000 to 100,000 people at a sporting event outside. And then you throw a little bit of snow in the mix or a little bit of rain. To me, it just makes football so much better. You know, with baseball, obviously they try to remove the weather elements, and rightfully so. It's a little bit different game that you got to play. But with football, man, it's like what I see when you watch a snow game. Like last night, obviously Cleveland ended up winning this ball game. There is no one in the United States of America, in the world, that thinks the Cleveland Browns are a better team than the Pittsburgh Steelers. But how does Cleveland end up winning this game? When you notice throughout the night, like it comes down to who's the tougher team. It comes down to who can adjust to the elements. Really what it comes down to is who wants it more, right? And when you're building all these domes and you're removing all this outdoor football, you're losing this aspect of the game. And I understand there might be a certain amount of fans out there that disagree with that, and we can, agree to disagree, but this is what football is all about right here, man. Watching the Thursday night prime announcers after the game interviewing Jameis Winston, and then them going to doing snow angels and just everything about football outside in the cold is what makes football great. So I'm with you, Nick. It sucks that they're trying to remove this element out of the game. And what's crazy is if you took a poll question, if you did a poll question, right, and you said, okay, we can do away, and this is the way I kind of make decisions in life, and it may be somewhat extreme, but this is just how I operate. This is how my mind fires. If you were to ask people, okay, you have to choose one or the other, remove all outdoor stadiums and play everything in a dome, or play everything outside, the outside stadium, they're going to win that every single time, right? So what the hell are we doing? I almost think that they should ban it. I really do. Ban domes. Because this is the stuff that you're missing out on. Think of all the dome stadiums and how many games like this that we were cheated out of. So, again, sometimes when you play in a dome, I know it will add better elements. It always add better elements, and you might get a better product on the field, meaning higher scoring. To me, it just seems like they're catering to the casual fan, I don't know if that makes sense, but that stuff drives me crazy. And what's crazy is, like, if you don't want to sit outside in the elements, there's other options. You can sit in a club suite, suite area. There's a lot of different things you can do. But for whatever reason, man, they want to make everything indoors. And you seen down in Jerry World the other day, a piece of sheet metal almost hit a guy on the sidelines. I don't mean to laugh, but it's like, my God, man, can we stop trying to make this game more perfect? It's absolutely perfect the way it is. But good to see you in here, Nick. Appreciate you swinging through. Joyce Martha in the chat. But will that stadium really get built when considering the organization? That's a good point, Joyce. It may not get built. I hope it doesn't, because I got to be real with you guys. Like, when we play at Chicago, I would much rather watch the Packers play at Chicago than Minnesota or Detroit because there's a chance of the elements, right? If it does get built, man, that sucks. And some people would say the argument is you got a retractable roof. You know, if you got a retractable roof, you can still play outside. No. Because you know what's going to happen when it snows or rains. They're going to close that roof. So I don't know. Football should just be played in the elements. Mike Berry in the chat. Good morning, everyone. And to the hunters out there tomorrow, good luck and stay safe. That's a shout out to Tim. Mike, Tim is out trying to bag one. He actually sent some pictures yesterday out there having a good time on the family property and then doing a little bit of hunting. So hopefully he gets one and then we can get him to ship some meat down here on dry ice. You know what I'm saying? I'm one of these people too. Y'all are going to hate me in the chat. Probably lose subs for this. That's okay. When I was younger, I grew up in Kentucky, back in the sticks and, deep Appalachia. I remember my first time hunting at probably 6 years old, 5, 6 years old, something like that, being out there with, whether it was my brother or my dad or whoever. We had a couple of neighbors I'd go hunting with too. They would take me. Loved hunting up to the age of about 16. And I guess I just got it all out of my system. And, if it's necessary, it's necessary. And I respect everybody who uses, the resources that you gather. It's such an old school way of living, and I love it. But man, I'll be honest, I have no like real true desire to go out there and like, man, let me go out and kill a deer. It's just not, you know what I mean? But boy, I've got a lot of friends that do here in Tennessee, and I'm first on the list when they want to send some meat over. I am carnivorous, don't get me wrong, but I guess I just did so much hunting as a kid that kind of got it out of my system, Big thing we did back home was squirrel hunting. Boy, you talking about a challenge. That was a lot of fun. And now as I get older, I get soft. It's like, man, I don't really want to kill a squirrel, to be honest with you. Don't want to eat the meat either. Although squirrel gravy, if you've never had it, whoo, let me tell you, sound like Turtle Man just now. Reef in the chat. Morning PTA. We're in a great spot. We won last week, 7-3 record, pushed closer to our big deal. I would imagine stopping the 49ers from making the playoffs isn't one of our goals. Pack all day. I would imagine stopping the 49ers from making the playoffs isn't one of our goals. If I'm understanding that correctly, you're saying you're not really focused on stopping the 49ers from making the playoffs, or maybe that was a typo and you meant to knock them out of the playoffs. If you're asking my opinion on that, knock them down. I will not be happy till the 49ers are the last ranked team in the league. the heartbreak that they've caused Packer fans. I'm all for beating the Niners up every chance you get, man. So it's going to be a fun game, and it really is. Everybody's getting hot. 49ers are one of those rivalries that really does kind of dates back, to Mike Holmgren coming to Green Bay. It seems like ever since then, because you had the 49ers dynasty began right before the Packers really went on their run in the mid-90s. And as that happened, obviously you had Mike Holmgren leave the San Francisco 49ers and come over to Green Bay and bring some assistance with him. And then you had the great rivalries of Brett Favre versus Steve Young, right after Joe Montana had left, and just a lot of good memories, man. The Mud Bowl that they played in, the old story of the Super Bowl year where Desmond Howard, real muddy at Lambeau Field. I think they played another one in San Francisco that was real muddy too, but one at Lambeau Field where they said Desmond Howard had to change his clothes at halftime and he was late getting back on the field for the second half. If you guys haven't heard that story, go watch America's Game, 96 Packers. Unbelievable story with that, as Desmond Howard was coming out of the tunnel and he seen the ball in the air and realized, oh, crap, I didn't make it. And, of course, he had to go over and approach Mike Holmgren. And as he did, Mike Holmgren, where the hell have you been? Well, I was muddy. The way Mike Holmgren tells the story is hilarious on that NFL Films documentary. But I was kind of dirty. I had to change my clothes. Mike Holmgren's like, okay, great. I'm glad you're comfortable and I'm glad you feel clean. But that was another game in the 49ers. Unfortunately, the TO catch, the touchdown catch, as much as we hate that as Green Bay Packer fans, boy, what a hell of a catch, right, to win that ball game. And then, of course, here recently, everybody's making it sound like the 49ers have owned the Packers, and they have in the playoffs. But, we beat them a couple times in regular season too, as I recall. So let's go out there and get that dub this weekend. That seems to be the dominant in the chat here. Emily in the house, good to see you, ma'am. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, 7-3 and ready for a meaningful win against the 49ers Sunday. Yes. And I think that's very well put to him, to be able to go out there and just get the dub. And it is going to be meaningful because everyone kind of considered the 49ers as one of the top teams in the NFC, and they've battled injuries. But guess what? We have too. The people that are going to kind of lean on that whole, well, they've been banged up, Brock Purdy's shoulders hurt? Oh, okay. Jordan Love didn't tear his MCL, right? Same thing with Jair Alexander. He's trying to play banged up, and he'll probably miss this week if I had to guess. Hopefully he plays. Everybody's dealing with injuries this time of year. So the ones that want to kind of downplay that this isn't a meaningful game and the 49ers aren't at full capacity, nobody's at full health right now, right? So I'm excited about it, Em. It's going to be a lot of fun, no doubt about it. Appreciate you swinging through. Hope everything's great down there in the great state of Florida. I'm sure it's a lot nicer than this picture, right? We're just sitting here talking about we want outdoor football, and then everybody's like, man, I wouldn't mind to go to Florida right now. So funny how that works. Daryl in the chat, good to see you, buddy. I like it. Daryl says, good morning, Clay. Felt like I needed to sleep in. Couldn't miss the morning show, bud. Man, listen, I rode over this morning, and those sheets were at the perfect temperature. And I had that room colder than a well digger's rear end. I rode over and was like, man, I could skip the show this morning, but nah, I'm too excited to get up and want to get up and talk some Packer football for sure. So let's kind of get to what we're going to cover today, man. We got a couple of different things that I wanted to hit on. I thought this was interesting as we're talking about Brock Purdy's sore shoulder and all that. Greg Cosell was on 95.7 The Game. They tweeted this out. Go give them a like, a retweet, all that good stuff at 957 The Game. And it says, quote, Brock Purdy has had a stretch here for a month or so where, to me, he's not been particularly comfortable. He's leaving the pocket too early. He's not seeing it with the clarity that we expect him to based on his past. Now, again, we talk about his PFF grade. I think he's still a top 10 graded quarterback. I think that the bar has been set so high now going into, I think it's his third year in the league, where Brock Purdy's played such good football that like anything other than great is like, okay, what's wrong with him? Now he's dealing with the shoulder. That could cause problems, right? Not being comfortable in the pocket. If you don't fully trust your arm to let that thing rip, at that third level of the field, anywhere from, pretty much anything over 20 yards because the shoulder is too sore, then that's going to cause you to hesitate a little bit on throwing that seam ball against a cover 3 or, trying to hit the whole shot against cover 2, whatever it may be. So I think there may be a little bit of something like that tied into it, but this does make me feel a little bit better about the game when the GOAT, Greg Cosell, talks about, hey, Brock Purdy here lately hasn't been as comfortable. And if Trent Williams, for some reason, doesn't play because of that ankle, if he doesn't make it out there on Sunday, he's going to be even more uncomfortable, right? So, again, I don't wish injury on anyone, but as you look at the injury report here, if Trent Williams doesn't go at left tackle, that's going to be huge, and Nick Bosa with the hip/oblique. Now, unfortunately, both of those guys, in my opinion, are absolute dogs. I don't think they're going to miss this game. The reality is they're playing for their season. If you look at the standings here, where the 49ers are, they're sitting at 5-5. And people were going, man, can they really make the playoffs? Absolutely they can. It's one of those things that if you win 12 games, you're pretty much in. That's kind of been, since we went to this new format, this new playoff format, I don't think there's been a team that's won 12 games that hasn't gotten in, right? So if they're sitting at 5-5 and you've got, 7 games left, then, hey, there's a chance, right? Like Dumb and Dumber. You're telling me there's a chance. So, yeah, they can make 11 wins might get you in. I don't think the 10 wins will get you in. I really don't in the NFC. But the reality is San Francisco 49ers backs against the wall. They're a wounded animal, right? If you think that we're not going to get the best, what am I trying to say here? The best effort on Sunday from the 49ers, then we're all kidding ourselves, right? Now, if a team's banged up, a team's banged up. It's going to cause problems, obviously. So, but that's how that's shaken up, man. They're dead last in the NFC West right now at 5-5. Now, it just so happens that's because of tiebreakers, right? The Rams are in second place at 5-5. The Seahawks are in third place at 5-5. The 49ers are in dead last at 5-5. But the Cardinals are just one game up. Realistically, if the Niners win 10 games, there's a chance they could still win their division. When I say 11 wins might not get you in the playoffs or 10 wins might not get you in the playoffs, I'm referring to the wild card spot. But based off of their NFC West situation, it's a good chance they can still make the playoffs with a 10-win season. It just depends on what the Cardinals do here at 6-4. And I'm not sure what their schedule looks like. Now, the Cardinals are playing at Seattle this week. So if Seattle somehow, some way knocks the Cardinals off, that's going to be a 4:25 Eastern kickoff. It's in Seattle, so the weather might be an issue there too. If Seattle can knock off the Cardinals, the 49ers are alive and well, even if they lose to the Packers. So, yeah, they're definitely still in the hunt, no doubt about it. Let's see here. What else we got? I want to make sure I'm not missing any super chats. I'm gonna keep an eye on that. I want to make sure I honor those. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here. Let's go to a Patreon question real quick. I'm not gonna pull it up on the screen. I'll just read it here real quick. Sometimes we have long drawn out conversations on this show, and it's not that people misunderstand me, but most of the time, probably 99% of the time, it's because I communicate so poorly that I didn't get the point across the way I wanted to. But Chris Nichols in the Patreon group, appreciate you guys and gals in there. If you want to join our Patreon group, scan the QR code in the upper right that'll send you to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. We got one of 3 tiers you can join that enters you into giveaways. And it also gives you access to like 4 different chats, and we'll incorporate your questions, your comments into the show in the questions for the show chat. But Chris Nichols says, why does Goot get so much control of playing time on the field, i.e. Quay, Nixon? I believe he's at the center of the issue here. So, Chris, I don't think that Goody is saying, hey, these guys have to start, right? And we kind of had this conversation the other day, and I'm afraid that I might have led people to believe that's what I think is going on. All I'm simply saying is he does have input, right? He does, when they sit down, and to the best of my knowledge, Mark Murphy, Matt LaFleur, and Brian Gutekunst still meet once a week. And this is supposed to be like this 3-headed ordeal, right? Where these guys they're almost like they're all equal, right? And giving their input and their opinion. In some cases, the general manager is the boss of the head coach. That's not the case in Green Bay. Mark Murphy is overseeing everything for the board, right? And he considers himself 1/3 of the equation. And many people got upset that he was going to be involved in those meetings with Goody and Matt LaFleur. I think it's went pretty damn well since they started doing that, to be honest with you. They're one of the winningest teams in the league since that happened, I think in 2019 when they made that change. But what I guarantee you does happen is Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst have a great working relationship, right? I think they would consider each other friends. So if they're sitting down in that meeting room, they go, okay, let's look at the roster. What do you need? Where are we banged up? Where are we a little light on the roster? Do we need to add a piece here or there? I think that Goody wants his first rounders out there. The last thing a general manager wants is for them to spend multiple first round picks, which, by the way, we've been talking about that a lot. I don't want to get too off topic, but the last couple of years, that's all it was about Joe Barry. Look, there's a ton of talent on this team. Look at all the first round picks on defense. And if you guys recall, we talked about this, and I would always say just because you draft someone in the first round doesn't mean they're a good football player, right? A higher hit rate, in my opinion, in the first round. So we always just kind of put it on the defensive coordinator. Mike Pettin was the problem. Okay, he's gone. Joe Barry was the problem. He's gone. And now you've got people like Quay, even Kenny going way back to first round picks, but Quay, Devontae Wyatt, some of these guys that you've drafted, Lucas Van Ness, these guys you're drafting in the first round. And now it's to the point of no one's really saying Jeff Hafley's got all this talent. He needs to make it work. I think people are starting to come to the realization, and things that we talked about the last couple of years on this pod was just because you draft somebody in the first round doesn't mean they're a slam dunk great pick. It doesn't mean they're going to be a great football player. Some people pan out, some people don't. Now, when you see that common occurrence with a specific round of, hey, we're really missing on these first round picks, now you got to dig a little deeper and go, okay, why is it that we're missing on first round picks, but we're hitting on some of the others? Because I don't want this to become a Goody bash fest. And what I mean by this is like Goody has had great draft classes. Like when you talk about outside of the first round, boy, is he hitting bombs. I mean, that dude is throwing the heat in rounds outside of the first round. But there's something wrong with the way you're approaching the first round. And you guys know I've been very vocal about this. I think there's too much emphasis put on the measurables, put on the RAS. And I do the air quotes on RAS because that Brian Gutekunst isn't looking at the technical RAS score, but they have an athletic profiling of the players and the prospects that they utilize to say, hey, this guy fits the mold of the style of player that we want, or at least the build of the player we want, whether it's height, it's weight for the position, of course, it's reach, the arm length, it may be hand size with certain positions. It might be, hey, for an interior defensive lineman, we want a real strong bench press and a great 3-cone, right? It might be something along those lines, a combination. They may not even key in on the 40-yard dash for the big fellas. Although most teams do key on the 40-yard dash, even for the big fellas, because that's a great test of foot speed, not necessarily top end speed, but how quickly you're getting the next foot down in front of the other. That really kind of gives you an indication that someone is going to have, pretty damn good footwork, no matter what the position is they play. So all that stuff comes into play, and I think they're putting too much emphasis on that in the first round. How many times have we heard he's a ball of clay? He's a ball of clay, right? Heard it about LVM. So think of the first round picks that we've missed on, your Darnell Savages, your Eric Stokes, LVN. It's still early. I still have hope in LVN. I don't want you guys to think I've given up on him. You see his jersey right behind me. I think the dude has the opportunity to be a monster. The problem is they've had him play edge. They've had him play outside contain edge in a 34 jam front. And now we go to a 4-3 and he's playing edge. And Greg Cosell agreed with this, just like something I seen on tape too. Seeing him at Iowa, he was a really good interior pass rusher. That's kind of his superpower. He's got the ability to push the pocket as an interior pass rusher. Now, against the run, he's a way better run defender at the edge position than he is a pass rusher, in my opinion. So you're kind of getting, okay, would you rather have a better run defender on the edge or a better pass rusher on the inside? I think we would all agree we'd rather have a better pass rusher on the inside. Now, people say, but wait, Clayton, we're already kind of loaded in the interior. You got Kenny Clark, you got Devontae White, you got Carl Brooks, right? The first two are underperforming. That's an issue. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to pull up the PFF grades real quick. And Chris, thank you for that message, man. I'm glad you brought this up because it is a great topic. And again, we don't want to turn this into a bash fest of any player, but if you see it, you got to say it. And let's just talk about it. And I want to put this disclaimer out there, guys. PFF is not everything, okay? It's not the gospel of grading a player, okay? This is just something that we like to use from time to time because it is multiple eyeballs on a specific player, on every player, right? And we don't really have time to watch that much in that regard. So these are the top graded defensive players for the Green Bay Packers this year, okay? So keep in mind what we just said. Just hypothetically speaking, Clayton, we can't put LV in an interior defensive line because it's so crowded. We got so many good players there already. Here are the top graded players on the defense. Xavier McKinney at 86.4, Evan Williams 80.6, Eric Wilson 78.9, which by the way got 13 snaps. I believe that was right. On Sunday, Eric Wilson got 13 snaps. Now, why did he get 13 snaps? Look at the top. Quay Walker 72. Why the hell is Quay Walker getting all those snaps when he's playing bad football? He's a first-round pick. Back to the conversation and the question for Chris Nichols, right? That, hey, why is Goody get all this pull making these decisions? I don't think he's the only one making the decision, but you can bet your sweet cheeks that dude is having an influence on Matt, and Matt probably having respect for Goody. Matt doesn't want to go, no, Goody, you made a bad pick. I want him off the field, right? There's got to be that give and take between two people who are supposedly one equal third of the organization, with the other third being Mark Murphy. That makes sense. Now, behind the scenes, you've obviously got the cap guru, Russ Ball. He doesn't have equal say. He's handling the contracts. There's many people that think Russ Ball is calling the shots, and that's just simply everything I've heard from the building. That is not the case. Russ is handling the contracts. So Goody makes the decision. I want that player. Russ figures out how to keep him on the team, right? That's kind of how that works. And in return, Russ Ball is obviously getting a little bit of clout. He's getting a little bit of resume where if the Packers go on a run here, and let's say the Packers finish with 12 wins and they're just one of the best organizations, if someone needs a new GM, they're going to come knocking. They can't take Goody, right? They'll probably go for Russ Ball. So there is a benefit for Russ Ball handling the contracts and being Goody's right-hand man in that regard. But Xavier McKinney, 86.4, Evan Williams, 80.6, Eric Wilson, 78.9. Got to get him on the damn football field. This isn't a small sample size. It's 242. You got 242 total snaps. And again, we like to take PFF and then look at the tape, right? And when you look at the tape, there's very few times that you go, I don't know about that PFF grade, especially on the season. Sometimes individual games, you go, I don't agree with that grade, and that's cool. But when it comes to the overall season grades, I really do think it hits pretty close to home. But again, you got to get that snap count up for Eric Wilson. There's no reason not to. Jair Alexander, 75.2. Listen, he's been a big topic of discussion on this show and many others. He's playing good football. The problem is he's not available. And that's where you've really got to get into what have the Packers done in the past when a player has missed a lot of time with injury. I do feel like there's a little bit of precedent there with them going to them and asking for a pay cut. Think of Aaron Jones. Ask Aaron Jones for a pay cut 2 years in a row, right? And Aaron was one of the knocks on Aaron Jones is he can't stay healthy the entire year. When he's on the field, he's a damn monster, but he can't stay healthy. So they may go to Ja and say, hey, let's kind of meet in the middle. Let's convert some of your base salary to guaranteed money, write you a check right now for $6 million, but let's shave $5 million off the cap. So you're actually taking a pay cut, but you get more guaranteed money up front. Therefore, you've got more security. You ain't got to worry about us cutting you this year type thing. We'll talk about that in the offseason. But Rashawn Gary is up to a 70.2 now, starting to turn it on a little bit more. You guys know we broke his play down all year long in terms of what are they doing schematically with him. They're not really letting him pin his ears back and go. He's getting chipped a lot as well. So schematically, there's a little bit of a harness there. And then the fact that he's warranting so much more attention. Now, you've seen this last game. Kenny Clark got the double team. Rashawn Gary gets sacked, right? You're starting to see some of that emerge. Edgerrin Cooper, 66.8. So what you're seeing here is the two highest graded linebackers, according to PFF, is Eric Wilson and Edgerrin Cooper. Again, let's go back to the snap count. Edgerrin Cooper got 53 snaps. That's awesome, trending in the right direction. Unfortunately, this week, he's injured, so there's a decent chance he may not play on Sunday. So that's short term, no big deal, but you can still see he's starting to get more snaps. That's a great thing. Next on the list as far as linebackers will be Isaiah McDuffie at 19, then Eric Wilson at 13. What I personally would like to see happen is Eric Wilson's snaps jump to maybe 25 or 30 and bring Quay's down to about 40 and have Edgerrin Cooper still play that 53 snap. Now, the problem is you got the green dot aspect. Once they get to the point where Edgerrin Cooper can wear the green dot, I think he will be the green dot guy. I just don't think he's there, and that's probably the wrinkle that we're not all taking into consideration when we're just going, this guy's better, throw him in there, right? So the other option there is let Xavier McKinney wear the green dot. That way you free up the linebacker room to do whatever you need to do to get the hot hand on the field. But Kingsley Naibare, a 62.6. Again, people were asking how come he's getting the majority of the snaps opposite Rashawn Gary as opposed to LVN. This is why right here. Once again, PFF, many people like to hate on it, but it's lining up with what we're seeing. Edgerrin Cooper, high grade, way higher than Quay and McDuffie and these guys. Lo and behold, his snap count's getting ramped up. The tape's lining up with the PFF grade, in other words. Preston Smith no longer on the team. He was a 61.8. Aaron Mosby only 17 snaps, 61.4. Carrington Ballantyne, 61.3. Carrington Ballantyne is the second highest graded corner. What happened this last game? You're seeing more Carrington Ballantyne, right? Again, PFF haters, I'm sure you hate to hear it, but they do a pretty damn good job. It's not perfect. Nothing is. But PFF, I feel like they get it right more often than they get it wrong. Now, when they get it wrong, players are going to roast them on Twitter. It's going to happen. So that's just the way it goes. Carl Brooks, 61.2. So when we're talking interior defensive line, guys, the highest graded player, according to PFF, is Carl Brooks. So if you threw everything else out the window, you'd say, okay, Carl Brooks should be the number one interior defensive lineman, right? Obviously, that's not the case. Matter of fact, he's only got 259 snaps, and you got to go down to number 17 to define Devontae Wyatt at 55.6. So at 55.6, he has right at 200 snaps, 199 snaps. But keep in mind, he's missed significant time this year. So his snap ratio will be much higher as far as how many games he's played and the snap count that he's had every game. Then you got to go down to Kenny Clark at number 21. He's a 49.6. You guys know last year, let me hit this real quick just to kind of look. I think he turned it on last year and finished with a decent grade. He finished with a 70.4 the year before, a 66.4. 70.4 is a good grade, right? Some would say it's a very good grade, and I can agree with that. You're in the 70s, it's a very good grade. The problem is you don't overpay for good. You overpay for great. And we overpaid for good with Kenny. And again, when you look at his scores, 74.8, 87.3, 90.2, 79.5. Here's the decline. You ready? 79.5, 76.1, 75.4, 66.4, 70.4. So you bounced back a little bit last year, and now you're down to a 49.6. Now, we can talk on another show on whether or not we can get out of Kenny's contract. You guys know I think they signed a 3-year extension is what it was, or at least a 2-year. He's under contract for at least 3 more years. And we talked about it doesn't make sense to get out from under it next year unless you use a post-June cut, meaning you're going to technically carry him on the cap until June 1st, and then you cut him, and it frees up cap for the upcoming year, but you got to wait until you get to June. So you got to be able to allocate cap space to balance the books up till June, okay? And you got to carry him on the roster there. So it might affect you a little bit in free agency, but you can move some other stuff around to compensate for that. But again, the whole point of this is with Kenny, man, it's just it's not working out. You know, like he's underperforming, and this is PFF. Now you go, okay, well, Clayton, PFF's garbage. Okay, cool. Look at his stats here lately. Let's go to the stats now. I don't think he recorded a tackle last week because Hafley was actually asked about it. Like, his stats are absolutely plummeting. Now we did show you where he was being double teamed a couple times, but again, you're paying a guy top 5 defensive tackle money. I think even top 3 defensive tackle money in terms of a cap hit. You got to be able to beat double teams too. It's funny, everybody's saying that about Rashawn Gary, but they're not saying it about Kenny, right? And then you look at Rashawn Gary, he's having a significantly higher season. Again, I still think Rashawn Gary's having a down year. We've said it all year long. But a 70.2, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like you don't get rid of your 5th highest graded defensive player just because he's underperforming. When you got a player that's one of the worst graded at his position in Kenny Clark at 49.6, it's not out of the what am I trying to say here? It's not ludicrous to have that conversation. You know what I mean? Like it's not something that there's some people, oh, shut up, Kenny's a great player. Okay. All right. We say this every year. And again, I hope he turns it around. And one thing about Kenny, he typically does in the second half of the season. But boys, it's November 22nd. Like, we're going to get this thing cranked up pretty soon here. Or we're going to be going, nope, he didn't do it, right? Quay Walker, 49.5. Again, we've talked about it. Quay he's played really bad. You see it all over the tape. Now, I always try to point out the positives. Kenny, what did I say? He is eating some double teams. That's giving you a +1 hat count in another aspect of your defense. That's a positive. Quay Walker, the positive. Vertical coverage, one of the best linebackers in the league to do it. Now, maybe that's one of the reasons why they put so much value on him is we've been running a ton of Tampa 2, where we're letting Quay run the seam, covering either the number 2 or the number 3 that goes vert in that kind of match aspect of Tampa 2. With Tampa 2, it's cover 2 zone, 2 high, deep half, and then the mock or the will, whichever one's designated to be the Tampa backer, will actually play a choice aspect, a match principle, where if the number 2 or the number 3 receiver goes vertical down the seam, he now becomes a deep third defender. If they stay underneath, then you could take advantage of 5 underneath zone defenders. If that makes sense. So that's what he does well. Unfortunately, everything else has just not been that good. So TJ Slayton's grading out really, really bad, 43.9. Now, again, these are just one aspect. You can go over now and cross-check with some of the stats and go, okay, what are they doing well? TJ Slayton has a higher pressure percentage per snap, per pass rush than Devontae Wyatt and Kenny Clark. So I've made the comment that, hey, why not get TJ Slayton some more reps, even in the passing situations? Just me personally. LVN's the lowest graded defender at 43.8. Boys, it's not working out with him on the edge. And again, I'm not pretending like I know more about football than Brian Gutekunst or Matt LaFleur or Jeff Hafley. Please don't take this the wrong way. They have forgot more about football than I'll ever know. But when Greg Cosell, who's been breaking down tape since the 1970s and is the senior executive producer on NFL Matchup, a show that's not fluff, it's not hot take central, it's simply let's break down the tape and understand what's happening on between the white lines. When he said it coming out of college, literally they were in camp and he said, what I'm hearing out of Green Bay is they see him as an outside linebacker in a 34 defense. And he said, that surprises me because I seen him more as an interior rusher in a 4-3. So I was in hopes that when they drafted LVN, they put about 20 pounds on him and throw him on defensive line in the 34 front. Obviously, that didn't happen. Well, now you switch to a 4-3, you get a little more flexibility. Why not go ahead and kick him inside and see what happens? What's the worst thing that could happen, right? So in order to do that, those two things, get LVN snaps on the interior and pass rush situations, or get TJ Slayton more snaps, period, or get Carl Brooks more snaps, period. What it's going to take is what Chris Nichols brung up. It means that we have to accept the fact, Goody has to accept the fact that, man, I made a mistake extending Kenny Clark to that huge contract. And we're going to reduce the snaps. I don't see it happening. I don't. And again, I hope Kenny turns it on here in the second half. But to me, that's kind of a deep dive of the situation on defense. And I hope all that makes sense. And again, this is just kind of my opinion, utilizing PFF and what we've seen on tape and kind of marrying the two. Again, like TJ Slayton, you notice I wasn't like, man, 43.9. Yeah, TJ Slayton's horrible. When you turn on the tape, limited snaps he's had, and now he's had 263 snaps, but I'm talking about limited snaps in a passing situation like this last game. When it came down to the final drive there, who was on the field? TJ Slayton and Kenny Clark rushing the quarterback, right? Rashawn Gary gets a sack. TJ Slayton gets a sack. Rashawn Gary flushes the pocket. TJ Slayton finishes it. And then Rashawn Gary gets a sack on the very next play. That's why I'm giving TJ Slayton a little bit of grace, is because, like, hey, the tape showed he's actually playing pretty decent. And then you go, okay, what do the next gen stats say with GPS tracking? How many pressures does he got? Oh, hark. He's got the highest pressure percentage of any defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, defensive tackle on our team. You get this thing pointing one thing out. The tape says one thing. The GPS tracking says the same thing. It kind of confirms it. PFF's the outlier. Why not get TJ Slayton? If you got two of the three, why not get TJ Slayton a little bit more? And that's why I've been a little more hesitant to bash Rashawn Gary early in the year, like many people were doing, was because when you look at the GPS tracking, guys, he's got 2 times the amount of pressures than anybody else on the team. It's still not to the level we wanted, but he has been hands down the most effective pass rusher on our team while being chipped by tight ends and running backs, third most in the league, the last number I've seen. So hopefully all that makes sense. Randy Cleaver's in the chat, says, makes sense. I like Slayton and Wyatt. They're monsters. Wyatt is that guy that, man, he can rush the quarterback, but he just does it reckless, right? We showed that play where everyone gets frustrated when Caleb Williams scrambles on a third down and picks up a first down. And you immediately think, well, they're playing too soft. They're not blitzing enough. They're not being aggressive enough. When in reality, the call from Jeff Hafley was a 4-man rush with an outside contain. So with that outside contain, the way it's designed is typically, and there's multiple ways you can do it, you rush upfield, straight arm rush, and you've got one arm free, so that when you're literally driving right underneath the neck of, you're keeping your hands away from the face, obviously it's a penalty, but you're driving underneath the neck of the offensive lineman. You're drive, eyes on the quarterback, and the second he makes his move to bail out of the pocket, you're using the other hand to shed and tackle, right? You're not necessarily, I'm going to rush the quarterback. You're compressing the outside of the pocket while being at a split second ready to shed and make the tackle on the quarterback. Jeff Hafley made a call in that play. He's beating us scrambling out of the pocket. And he kind of scolded the media yesterday because they were talking about design quarterback runs, and Hafley kind of laughed and was like, most of those runs were scrambles. They weren't designed quarterback runs. It was one read and go, right? Kind of an RPR approach, really, when you think about it, just more of a drop back aspect of it, as opposed to faking the handoff on a traditional RPO look. But in that play call, he was thinking, okay, let's throw contain. If he tries, he's not going to rush on us this time. He's not going to scramble on us this time. And what happened? Devontae Wyatt recklessly rushes right into the outside lane, lands on his face, trips Enigbare. Now both defenders on that side of the line is down, and Caleb looks up. It's essentially a 2-man rush now. Why? Because Devontae Wyatt recklessly took out Enigbare. That's been on the tape since day one for Devontae Wyatt. Not just in the passing game, but the running game. Now his superpower is he's a good pass rusher. There's no two ways about it. He just does it recklessly, and you got to take the good with the bad. You take the good with the bad. You got to take the bad with the good, I should say. Meaning, yeah, he's going to be able to get pressure and get sacks. But again, what's more important? It's what Jeff Hafley talked about. We won the game. You know, at the end of the day, the Chicago Bears only scored 19 points. And we gave the ball back to them in a situation where we were about to score points and force them into more passing situations where we could really key in on the pass as opposed to still trying to cover the run. So a lot of things that come into play there. But you made all these mistakes, and you still had an opportunity to hold a team to less than 20 points. To me, I'm with Hafley on that. I am. And I know many fans don't like to hear that, but I truly am. I look at that and I go, man, that's what else could you ask for from a defense? You kind of held on, and you didn't expect them to do some stuff that they did, and you end up getting a win, and you held them to 20 points. And many people were like, well, Chicago's offense is horrible. They have been horrible here lately. They scored, if I remember correctly, they scored 30 points on 2 different defenses this year. I don't care if it's the worst defense in the league, guys. It is not normal for a team to score 30 points on a defense. It's just not. So hopefully that makes sense what we just covered there. Again, I wanted to get into the PFF grades, and this kind of worked out, and it is somewhat of a 49ers preview. I'm going to end it with this real quick. There was a clip that, I'm trying to think who sent it to me, and now I won't know because I already clicked on Paul. I think his name is Paul on Twitter, sent me this clip, and I really, really appreciate him doing this. I'm glad he did. You're always looking for fodder. You're looking for that game day material for the players. Where one team's being a little too cocky or what have you. You could tell this guy here, I think his name is Diamador. I hope I'm saying that right. Diamador Lenore was asked about Jordan Love, and he was specifically talking about Jordan Love throwing an interception in every game this year. Now, you could tell he catches himself and tries to clean it up at the end, but this is how the 49ers see the Packers. And I love this type of stuff. Let them doubt. Here we go.
Jordan Love's throwing a pick in every game this season he's played, so
watch it.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So for people on the pod that can't see it, they said Jordan Love's thrown an interception every game this year, and he started licking his finger, licking his fingers, like, oh, we're gonna eat. Just saying. I don't know who the hell this guy is, to be honest with you, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I really don't. I've never heard the name. He may be a great player. I don't follow the 49ers too close, but this isn't a Charvarius Moore or a Jalen Ramsey or Sauce Gardner, people who have done a lot of stuff in the past to the best of my knowledge. But that's blatant disrespect there. And I hope they show that to the team this week. I really do.
Ooh. You see opportunities on tape?
Yeah. I mean, the stats is the stats. He's a great quarterback, though. He's been killing it this year. Much respect to him.
So he caught himself on this reaction. You see him right here, and everybody laughed.
Yeah. Right.
Ooh, see? And then he caught himself. Oh, no, he's a great quarterback. He's done great things this year. So I just want to point that out. Thanks to Paul. I think it was Paul on Twitter that sent it. Appreciate you, buddy. If it wasn't Paul, I apologize for getting the name wrong. I got a lot of people atting me and everything right now. So, and you guys know I speak English on a third grade level. I'm not the most intelligent human being on the face of the earth. I'll never be accused of that, but I try to keep up with everybody on there. But it's really cool to see the channel grow and see Twitter grow like it has. And everybody talking football. We're finally out of political season. We ain't got to be all divided. Everybody can get along again. But, yeah, I love the disrespect. Bring it on. So I wanted to hit on that real quick before we wrapped up. Everybody in the chat, you guys are awesome, man. This has been a good show. Bunch of people in here. Hit that like button for us. Feel free to sub to the channel. If you're on Twitter, click on my profile. Much easier interface to watch on YouTube. If you click on my profile, you'll see a YouTube link. Hop on there, sub to the channel, hit the notifications. We go live every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Now, you got to get over this fact, like Nick McSwain says. This show sucks, but hit the like button for us. So appreciate you, Nick. You're the man, bub. New people are going, why did he say that, man? No, it's just hang around. You'll get it later. The show does suck. It just does. It happens. So with that being said, guys, we're going to get out. I'm losing my voice. I got a weak voice naturally anyway. If I have to talk by myself for over an hour, it's going to be bad. It's going to sound way worse than it already does with this redneck accent too. So we're going to be back tonight, 7 p.m. Central for another PTA Live. Emilio will be joining us, and we'll continue to break down the 49ers matchup coming up. I'm glad we got into this conversation about the defense because I wanted to hit on some of the PFF grades. And it's important to kind of try to understand from multiple angles exactly what's going on defense. So with that being said, for those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack, go.